Could the Sars project have been designed any better than it was? Where did it all go wrong, and what possible measures should the top hierarchy of the police adopt to avoid an emergence of this dreadful police unit in another form? Were Sars operatives truly involved in the war against terrorists in the northern parts of the country, as was claimed by police spokesman Frank Mba? And in what capacity exactly? Why should the idea of a special squad for fighting violent crime be desirable when there's already an existing police mobile unit, which can easily be deployed for such operations with a minimum of fuss? What should the government's approach to policing be going forward? For answers to these questions and a lot more, we're now being joined by Col Hassan Stan-Labo, retired, a former military intelligence officer, security consultant, and policy analyst. Welcome to the program. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Fabiola. Thank you.
Well, Col Hassan Stan-Labo, I think Tundu already asked all the questions. We should just say, what's your take on what's going on with the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and the protests around the country? What should the government do going forward, beyond just promising reforms?
Thanks so much, Dr. Ruben. First and foremost, I want to say my heart goes out to all those who have lost in this very important struggle to reorder our society and create a better governance system for us. Having said that, Ruben, I must say that, well, the way forward is first and foremost, I agree. The IG has spoken to these guys to please stay off the streets so government can address the issues. He has also been able to let them or let us all understand that some level of reforms will be taking place, which is, of course, commencing with the disbandment of SARS. Mr. President has also spoken. But in all this, I think they have probably forgotten to talk to the policemen. We cannot be having this sort of conversation and policemen are still on the streets shooting at protesters. This is very funny. I can't understand. I was expecting by now that most likely we could have taken the police off the streets, bring in some other security agencies, whether they belong to the police force or we just bring them out to help escort the protesters. Let us begin to take steps now that will make the protesters begin to have some level of confidence in government. Because the whole thing ongoing right now boils down to a high deficit in trust. Trust deficit is the problem now. The president has spoken, even though as far as I'm concerned, he has not addressed the nation yet on this issue. Whatever the comments he made to me were just side comments. I expect the president to address the nation specifically on the ongoing situation in the country. I think that will give a big boost to whatever the government intends to do. What is the way forward for the nation or for government or for the police is that, yes, we should immediately begin to embark on the reforms we've talked about. And even at that, one begins to wonder who is reforming who. Is it the police force that is reforming SARS or SARS that is reforming the police force? Because even the entire police force calls for reforms. Okay? I'm aware of what the House is doing currently and, of course, the Police Act that has just been passed and so on and so forth. But I think we need to really look into the police and do a great deal of job. We should start from the recruitment process of the police itself. Who are those we are bringing into the police force? Are they just some illiterates from my village? Or they are polished gentlemen, hopefully graduates or OND holders, who at least can relate with the public properly? Because I think the part of the major problems we have with the police is that it's highly faulty. Faulty because we are in a nation where politicians, people that are coming to the police force because they are looking at the next elections. We must sit down and be a serious nation, Ruben. We must take certain things serious. What we are seeing now is a product of all the inherent defects in our system that has galvanized to this point where even the youths, whom some of us used to see as being docile, are waking up and telling the world enough is enough. Our nation is before the international community being ridiculed as far as I'm concerned. This could have been avoided 2 weeks ago when these things, when the galvanization towards what is on today commenced, Ruben. I expected that about a week back, a week back from now, certain steps would have been taken by government. I remember very well in a comment I made somewhere about a week back that I see a replica of an Arab Spring happening here in my country, because Nigeria is the largest country within the sub-region. Our population is so massive. Look at what happened in Mali. If we have a situation here where we are beginning to have destabilizations, it will spread into Niger and Chad. All those ones are already failed states in their own case. So for anything to happen there is no big deal. Please, government should be sensitive. We have spent 21 years in a democracy. Employees don't tell their employers what their job description should be. If the people have spoken that we do not want Sars, disband it. An employee does not dictate to his employer. I pay your dues. I pay your salary. I elected you. So when I talk, you listen. Because power belongs to the people. I can't understand. I really can't understand. After 21 years of democracy, yet we cannot even understand the very basic principles of democracy.
Thank you, sir. I sincerely hope that these are the last pangs of this extended post-military hangover and we actually start to finally enjoy democracy in the true sense of the word. But since we're told for the upteenth time, it seems, that Sars is dead, let's do a quick post-mortem. Can we talk about how Sars came into being in the first case and what are the flaws in the design that went wrong and got us to this pass that we currently are at?
My dear, Sars is a creation of 1992, if I'm right. Okay? Yes. So it's still a young baby as far as I'm concerned. All right? What went wrong, I think, those who are supposed to execute the job description mentioned Sars went outside their briefs. They've gone outside their briefs. Having gone outside their briefs, they took the laws, unto themselves. They became the law unto themselves. All right? Today you find a Sars man who will tell you, I will shoot you or I will kill you and nothing will happen. But the gentleman is correct, nothing will happen. Because in the past people have killed and nothing has happened. How many cases have been investigated by the IG? How many? How many Sars personnel have been held, as culprits and made to face the law? So the man is right when he stops you in your car and discussing with you and tell you if you are not careful, I will waste you and nothing will happen. And he tells you to your face. Frankly speaking, I've sat in the car once with my family, my wife and kids. I was stopped by a policeman. I was in mufti. I didn't bother to introduce myself in my usual way because I feel allowed the gentleman to do his job. But you will not believe he started stepping beyond his bounds. When eventually he discovered, I am an army colonel, I expected that as a disciplined security man, you come to attention and pay me my regards. He was asking me, so what do you have for the boys now? A bloody sergeant, you are asking me, after knowing who I am? I'm disappointed. I looked at him, I said, well, I don't blame you. I blame the training you had because my driver wouldn't do that to your boss. It's unfortunate. And while I kept talking, my wife became jittery that, look, this man is holding a weapon. Drive off, baby, before this man begins to misbehave. I had to understand what she was saying and I drove off because I'm there with my entire family. This guy will waste you and nothing will happen. This is Nigeria. That is the level of impunity which our police force has attained. It's unfortunate.
I mean, if that could happen to you, a retired colonel in the army, then it speaks volumes. But I just want to talk about some of the measures that have been thrown forward. Said training. Yes, they're going to redirect the unit, train them. In fact, we understand that training will commence as early as next week on this new unit. I mean, what's your take in all of this, and how should they be trained? A television station a couple of years ago once ran a documentary on the position of the police training colleges and our academies, and you need to see how appalling it is where our police officers are trained. What would they do differently this time in terms of training?
Thank you, Rufai. Thank you. Let's not overflog it. I know where you are headed for. Rufai, to start with, before I go into training, whatever the reforms we want to bring into bear in the police force, first and foremost, we should make sure that the 5 basic fundamental ailments with the Nigerian security sector is incorporated into that reforms. And what are those 5, the big 5, like I often refer to them? Manpower, funding, logistics and equipment, training, and of course, welfare. If you address these 5 things, the security sector in this country, frankly speaking, will come alive. We take a complete new turn. Let's look at training. But you cannot even discuss training effectively without looking at recruitment. Because if you don't bring in the right material, who are you training? You pick a boy under the bridge in Ojo Elegba and bring him into the police force. What training do you want to give him? Is that where he wants to begin to inculcate some basic home training that could have been given by his parents when he has spent all his life under the bridge? So you first of all look for the right material and bring them in. Then we'll now begin to discuss training, starting from the conditions under which training is held. We are all living witness of what happened and why the Ikeja Police College had to undergo some basic renovations to make the place, worthy for human beings to train under. We must look at such conditions, for heaven's sake. In the course of our training, we should imbibe a lot into these men. Make them understand that the police is supposed to be our friend. I shouldn't see a policeman and say, no, I better talk to some roadside man. If I'm traveling on the streets, on the highway, if I see a policeman and I have an issue, I should feel happy and safe enough to stop by his rather than say, avoid this one, so just avoid these ones, leave them where they are. That's the general impression the public is having. We should be able to avail a training that will be highly motivational. Take a visit to the military institutions and see the way people are being trained. You go through real hardship in the course of your training, but frankly, you feel happy. Why? Because of the nature of the training that is being imparted into you. Okay? Ranging from your civil responsibilities as a citizen, and so on. Here we find policemen who, frankly speaking, it's as if they were just told, go out there and conquer the world. Have your own AK-47, move on. Kill and move on. That is the sort of police we seem to have. So what is supposed to be asking, please, where is your training curriculum? What are the contents in your training curriculum? What does it reflect? To what extent does it meet the expectations of the Nigerian public? And so on and so forth. What is the individual discipline of the individual you are training? How much discipline have you been able to inculcate into him? Look at their mannerisms. It's unfortunate. I don't know where to start from when we talk about the training of the policeman. But the thing is that you really have to sit down and draw up a proper curriculum that makes that man, at the end of his training, a decent individual, a decent policeman, somebody you see and admire and want to stand by. Not the ruffians you see on the street in bedroom slippers, carrying AK-47. You don't know whether you are driving towards an armed robber or you are driving towards a police. Whether to step on your brakes or to zoom on. That's the sort of police we have on the street, called Sars. And he's given all the powers, life and death, over you. When the IG was telling, what was this musician, Davido or whatever, when he was telling the general, look, we have disbanded Sars and so on, has he also told his men in the field that you have been disbanded, submit your weapons? You are talking to one side and you have not spoken to the troubleshooter. As he is talking there in the office, they were busy shooting in the field. So, how do you expect them to have enough confidence in you? How do you expect to build the trust? There is no mutual trust. And with the way these boys have gone about this thing, there is even no leadership in the team. So, you will find it difficult who to talk to. Who to talk to. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Please, government should be more sensitive to the yearnings of the people. When the people speak, listen. When they speak on air like we speak, listen, take notes. When they come out in protest, listen. It is that the government has endorsed you to do a job, does not, ascribe to you a repository of all knowledge over the job. You must consult and listen. More so when your employers, you are an employee, you are a civil servant, or a politician who was elected in. So when I, a taxpayer, talks, you listen to me because I pick your dues. I pay your salaries. I feed some of you free of charge. You stay in government houses, which I maintain from my tax money. I say I don't want SARS. I don't want SARS, period.
Well, Colonel, you talked about the Arab Spring earlier, and it looks like Nigeria is sitting on a ticking time bomb with these protests across the country. Now, makes it even more frightening is that on social media, some young people are teaching others how to prepare Molotov cocktails. If you were to advise the government, beyond some of the things you have said, what is that 1, 2, 3 steps that the presidency or the IG can take today to pacify those youths and to get them off the streets?
Right now, as we speak, Ruben, I expect the president to start with to address this nation by 7 p.m. specifically on this issue. 2, in that address, give a directive to the Inspector General of Police to keep all policemen off the streets. Order whether the road safety or whatever and so on to provide necessary security to the protesters on the streets. There should be no shooting of anybody whatsoever. I'm talking of things that should start immediately. Not something that will start next week. We are on it. Immediately. Pay visits. Government officials should visit all victims. Visit their families and commiserate with them. In that same speech, the president should immediately announce that all burial expenses, hospital bills, and so on will be borne by the government. Announce a huge ransom, not as compensation because you can't compensate for life, but to help the family, to sustain them, to help them keep life going. It could be any amount, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, to each of these families. Let these protesters see action. Not people sitting in offices and discussing under air condition. Let them see the IG visiting homes and saying, we are sorry, ma, to their parents. Let the people see humanity in you. These are some of the steps that we should begin to take immediately. While this is ongoing, you are now appealing to the boys or to these young kids, our children on the streets. Please stay off the streets. We understand your pains. We have heard you. We are ready to correct. We have failed you. We are ready to put things in order. That is how it should be. Bring in a few of them to be part of the decision making in your implementation of these things. I was happy when I learned that a strategic, what's it called? A strategic, is it coordination or consultation?
Well,
was going to be set up.
Well,
okay? Yes,
many recommendations there.
Fine, that is the way to go.
Well, thank you very much, Col Hassan Stan-Labo. Thank you very much for joining us.